fear that when I give more to other people that I don't have enough left for myself and that they will keep taking. How can I best get past this?
Well, it's true, we can sometimes give so much that we're hurting ourselves or the people we live with, but it really is up to you. You have to consider what you have to give, how much you can give, the best way to give, what makes you happy in terms of giving, and then look at the recipient as well. When you help other people, look at the results of what you're doing. You know, if I'm helping someone, is it really benefiting them? Are they going on to use whatever way I've helped them? You know, the information I've given them, or the material things, or the money I've given them, is that going on and they're using that in a good way? And you have to be prepared to make changes and adapt as you practice giving, because sometimes we do give too much and then get burnt out, and we've got to look after ourselves, so we need to retreat a bit and give a bit less for a while because we need to look after ourselves. Or maybe we have people under our responsibility that we're neglecting because we're giving and helping other people, so we have to think of that. Or maybe the people we help, you know, they go on and they misuse or they don't use very well whatever help we've given them, and we might have to realize, contemplate and think, I shouldn't do this anymore, I should do things differently because it's not leading to a good outcome. So nothing is fixed. You've always got the opportunity to consider how you give, when you give, who receives what you're giving, and the recipient, who you're helping, what's happening to them. You can change, you can make new guidelines for yourself, you can do more, you can do less. But generally, as a rule of thumb, I'd say we can always give more than we think because we always have a little bit of a selfishness in ourselves, and you know, like you say, we do feel, oh, I've given so much, maybe I've given more than I should. Well, occasionally that might be true, but I think majority of times it's not true. You know, if you're not starving and you're not homeless and you're not, you know, on death's door, you probably, if you're in a normal situation, you probably can always give a little bit more than you think you can, because we have attachment. We have stinginess, we have a greed and attachment to our possessions, our knowledge, the things we have. So generally we need to go against that. Practice giving, you know, until it becomes a habit. When it's a habit, a good habit, and it's done mindfully, giving can be, you know, it's enjoyable, and it's not it doesn't require a lot of effort. You just have the idea, if there's a need and I have something I can give or share, I'll do it. And you wait, and that situation will arise all by itself. You don't have to look for it. It will come your way, because there are always people around us who need some help. It could be just a few kind words or some advice. It could be sharing a material thing. It could be giving some money or something to somebody. But the situation will present itself. And if you have the mind to give, you've trained yourself in giving, it will notice when the situation arises, it will know, oh, this is a chance I can do something. I can make some good karma for myself, letting go of my own attachment, and I can help somebody too. So you don't even have to plan it all the time. You know, sometimes you do plan it, of course, but sometimes you just wait and see, and when the time presents itself, you can do it, you can give.
Go ahead, teacher. Can you hear me? Yes, okay, yes. You spoke about meditation and getting peaceful states, and also contemplating on impermanence. My question really is, yes, we do get these sort of states where, especially in the retreat situation, but since we are lay people and during our lay life, we can't always, get into those states like we do in the retreat situation. So how can we lessen this this concept of self, because I think that is something that we need to do, as you mentioned in your talk, but we need to do it while we are living our lay life and doing our ordinary work. So can you talk a little bit about that in a practical sense? Thank you, Bhante.
Well, the Buddha gave us Pancha Sila, the 5 precepts, as a guideline for daily life. And sometimes people misunderstand. They think keeping the precepts is one part of the practice, the development of morality, harmlessness, moderation, and it's separate from the practice of Vipassana or the development of meditation and wisdom. But it's not, because we're training just this one mind. So if you take the practice of the 5 precepts as important to you, and you're sincerely trying to use them as guidelines for your speech, your actions every day, what you'll find is it's helping you to let go of the most coarse or damaging, harmful states of mind that may arise in the course of your day. So you may have the intention arise to lie, or to abuse somebody, or to kill an insect or some animal that's around. But because you're keeping the precepts, you have to be aware of your intentions and your speech, your actions that are flowing on from your intentions. So as you go to work, do things, you're watching your mind and the intentions arising, and you're using the 5 precepts as guidelines. So if you have the intention to kill a fly, or to tell a lie, or swear, or say something rude or hurtful to somebody, for example, but you're also at the same time you're determined to keep the precepts, you're going to have to practice letting go of that intention, the intention to kill, to steal, to lie, whatever. And at that moment, if you're mindful enough to let go of that intention, you're seeing that intention is impermanent and it's not self, and I can let go of it. And you've probably already done that many times. We've all learned to hold our temper when we want to lose our temper. We've all learned maybe not to take something that we're not entitled to, but we have the opportunity to. It arises, but we don't take it. We've learned that much. Or somebody invites us to have a drink and we say, I don't want to drink because I want to stay sober and mindful. We've all done this, and we can do this. So you have to see this is just as much a part of our practice as seeing the impermanence of the body and the 5 khandhas at the very highest stages of the practice. It all is coming from the same place. It's training the mind to know itself, to know intentions that are wholesome or unwholesome, to let go or abandon the unwholesome ones, to cultivate and develop the wholesome ones. We can do that in daily life, and we are doing it already, sometimes without realizing, but we just need to do it more and bring up more mindfulness as we go.
Thank you, Uncle. Let me please read out the question from Upu. The question is, I have been practicing meditation for years, but I'm suffering from chronic migraine and headache. Hence, I cannot concentrate on breathing. Sometimes I cannot catch the inhaling or exhaling, as it is not distinct to me. But I can feel breathing in and out, just perception. So keep on that perception. So how can I overcome this instead of anapanasati? What will be the best for me to practice? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Well, any method of meditation, number one aim is to bring up more mindfulness and clear comprehension. So if sitting is troublesome, can't stay with the breath, can't find the breath, can't be aware of it very well, another good practice to try is walking meditation. Even in a house, you might have a room that's empty of people, with minimal furniture, and you can practice walking between two walls or outside your house, in the garden, the yard, or wherever, or in a park. Walking meditation is a very good one for people who are struggling with sitting. And you don't have to walk fast, you can walk a bit slower than normal. Put your attention on the feeling of the feet touching the ground, right foot touching the ground, lifting, left foot touching the ground, lifting. And it's pretty obvious if you're doing some walking meditation back and forth between 2 points, it's much harder to fall asleep. And the activity of walking often absorbs our awareness better than just sitting when our mind is not peaceful. When we're not peaceful and we don't have much mindfulness, sitting we tend to just endlessly, we say, proliferate, thinking, and mentally we get weaker and tireder, and it quite often it doesn't lead to much benefit at all. I'm not saying it's totally a waste of time, but it's harder because we're not peaceful and we'd find it hard to establish mindfulness perhaps. So try the walking as an alternative practice. As I said, it can be in a room or outdoors for just 2 meters, or it could be 10 meters or 20 meters, depending on what you've got available. And for a period of time, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever time you've got, mindfully walking back and forth, putting your attention on the body, the posture, the rising and falling of the feet, and bringing up that state of mindfulness and letting go of whatever it is that is agitating you at that time, or at least being aware of what's agitating you but not letting your mind dwell on it and get caught up in it. So if you are feeling stressed, well, just know, at the moment I'm stressed, and you carry on doing your mindful walking as you feel stressed. But gradually, you're putting all your effort and your attention into the mindful walking. The feeling of stress will subside. It will get less because you're not feeding it. You're not making it worse. So in the end, any meditation that helps you to be more mindful, whether it's mindfulness of breathing, walking meditation, or practicing metta bhavana, maitri bhavana, we have a number of choices. You have to experiment to see what works for you, to hold your attention and help you let go of some of the stressful thoughts.
Thank you, and Sadhu Longpo. Could I please invite Tommy from Sabah, Malaysia, please unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Hello, Ajahn. Sadhu about the topic of meditation. Now I have a question regarding the meditation process. Because at the moment I have been meditating and I have the first jhana, as I said, the 5 hindrances we under. Then after that, from that process, I take around 45 minutes when I don't feel the breathing of that. During the 45 minutes, then I come back to the breathing. So, what would be the next process for me to continue on the second jhana? Sadhu. Should I continue it? Because I tried to continue, it couldn't go on that process. Sadhu. Ajahn.
Well, I don't know you, so I'm not fully aware of your practice, but one general guideline Lumpur Cha, my teacher, gave was that when you have established some mindfulness, a state of stillness or calm, what we'd call Samadhi, then turn to contemplate your body. Either the 32 parts of your body, one by one, going through those 32 parts, or the 4 elements, earth element, air element, water element, fire element. The aim being to both maintain your awareness within your body and to contemplate to see the 3 characteristics. So any of those 32 parts or the 4 elements, you can contemplate to see the impermanent nature of them, The nature of the body is to disband, break up all the time. It's changing, aging, so it's dukkha. And also it's not a self that you can control and compel to be a certain way and make a certain way. It goes according to its own nature. Use the state of calm that you've developed to contemplate the body. Come back to contemplate your body and get good at it. Become familiar with observing your body as it is, as the different parts of the body or the four elements in the body, to get to the point where you see this body is not a self, it's something I must let go of. My attachment, my identification with the body is something I have to let go of to be peaceful. So you use your samadhi, your stillness, to gain wisdom and understanding of the body. And you should find that really progresses your practice very well.
Thank you, Sadhu Nombo. We have 4 more questions. Are you okay to take them?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I please invite Upadi from Sydney to be unmuted?
Unmuted already. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
สวัสดีค่ะหลวงพ่อ How to practice ubekha? How could you stay happy when those loved ones around you are suffering and you think that you've done your best to help everyone?
Well, that is a very important thought to have, to remember that you've done your best. You've given everything you can. You've done your best for others. That should bring you some joy, even if they're experiencing some suffering and some problems in their life. But you also have to remember everybody is the owner of their karma. I'm the owner of my karma. You're the owner of your karma. We do good results. We do bad results. So even if you help someone a lot, say like your child or your family member, help them over and over and over again, they still have their own karma and they're experiencing the results of their own karma. And sometimes there's nothing you can do. You've given them everything, you've done your best, and still there's problems, still they are suffering, still they have issues in their life. But that doesn't change the fact that you've given so much to them. You've given them love, support, and help. That is still exactly the same. You've done your best. But what happens to them is also dependent on their karma, and you're only part of the story. The other part of the story is themselves. And sometimes we help people and they don't help themselves, or they try to help themselves, but their old karma is so strong, they're still having to go through a lot of suffering. Nothing is fixed in this way. We have to see there's many factors involved. And the best thing is just keep doing your best, be patient, and like you say, practice upekkha, equanimity, understand that we all have our own karma, and you have to accept that. It's a very hard one. So the Buddha said this quality of upekkha is one of the hardest to develop of all, because especially with family, you love them. So to remain equanimous when they're experiencing the fruits of their old karma, maybe they fall ill or have an accident or lose their job or something, very hard. You have love, but you also have to maintain equanimity so that you can really help them. Because you have to think, if I lose my upekkha's gone, I'm not going to be able to help them much. Because if they're suffering and then you start suffering, two people suffering only makes the whole situation worse. So the kindest, most helpful thing for you to do for them is maintain your upekkha. It's like some of the stories I tell about people who are close to death. They often, if it's somebody who's practiced meditation and knows the Buddhist teachings, they're in the hospital bed or at home and they're dying and they know they're dying, and everyone around them is crying, worried, angry, suffering. Sometimes that's the worst thing for the person because they've got all these people suffering around them and there's nothing they can do. So what they want is everyone just to go quiet, leave the room or just sit quietly. That will help them the most. So you have to see the value of upekkha is like this. Sometimes that's what people need when they're going through their problems and their suffering. They just need someone who's calm, supportive, but not getting upset like they are, because that only makes them worse.
Thank you. Can I please invite Nirosha to please be unmuted?
Good afternoon, Ajahn. I just want to know the difference between equanimity that arises practicing samatha kamatahana and practicing vipassana kamatahana. The reason why I ask this question is because when I experience equanimity due to practicing samatha kamatahana, my mind just become satisfied with the experience, and I forget to practice Vipassana meditation, just satisfied with the equanimity arises with that. So if Ajahn can give me a word of encouragement, that will be great. Thank you, Ajahn.
Well, I think this is a very common part of the practice that everybody will experience. The calm, the peace, the equanimity from samatha meditation is very attractive to the mind. It's satisfying and we feel content. And quite often we'll just accept that this is good enough because it's better than what I had before. It's good enough. And so we're not progressing on to look for the real root cause of our suffering, to develop the wisdom from Vipassana. So this is one of the things the Buddha himself said. He was always driven by a discontent that the peace, the equanimity he had attained, particularly from Samadhi, he could see it's not complete freedom from suffering yet. He was discontent with it, and he preserved that feeling of discontent because it made him hungry and searching to look for the real cause of his suffering, and that was the attachment, the clinging to the khandhas, to the feelings, perceptions, thought formations, and so on. So one always has to have that sense of turning the mind to contemplate. However calm and equanimous one is, one has to know it's not sure, it's impermanent. It may change. Maybe something will stir you out of your equanimity and you'll realize, oh, I'm angry again, or I'm greedy again, or lustful again, or I'm afraid again. You never know when that might happen, so you always have to have that awareness. Even this equanimity from Samadhi is impermanent, it's not self, it's not the final goal of the practice. And you keep that sense of heedfulness, carefulness with your practice as you go on to contemplate. So that's why I was saying earlier, to come back and reflect on your body. Really examine your human body and your identification with it as a self. This way you will develop a deeper kind of equanimity, the equanimity where you let go of identity view, sakkaya ditthi, based on the khandhas. And the equanimity and calm and peace you get from Vipassana, from insight, is always going to be more profound and deeper than samatha, because you're actually uprooting, completely removing wrong views and attachments from your mind, whereas samatha is suppressing them, and that is a necessary part of the practice, but it's not the complete practice. So there is a difference in equanimity, and that's why we have to keep practicing and not be complacent.
Sadhu, thank you. So may I please invite the last person, Shumei, to please be unmuted.
Again, how do I get over this natural tendency to be judgmental, almost spontaneous tendency to be judgmental all the time, and that includes being self-judgmental, criticizing myself all the time, not just others.
Well, first of all, you have to get to know your own character and accept your character. So if you've grown up becoming one who is very judgmental, just accept that. Okay, that's my karma, that's who I am, where I am in my practice. Then you have to look more deeply and say, well, all these judgments I make, how does it make me feel? Is it peaceful? Is it giving rise to real wisdom or insight? And you'll probably start to notice the more carefully you observe yourself, a lot of these judgments are like throwaway. They just come up out of nowhere. They're not really based on real information or evidence. Often they're very superficial. You just see somebody or hear what they say and you immediately say something, oh, this is right, that's wrong, I like this, I don't like that, this is good, this is bad. Catch that habit. You have to investigate that habit and see how we're attaching to very superficial perceptions of people, often with very limited information, often easily swayed by just a few words or one experience, and our perceptions are formed, and then we judge the person or ourselves on that. And the whole point of the Buddhist teachings and the practice of Vipassana, as we've been talking about, is you're starting to unravel that attachment and see, well, we're a mixture of different parts, and the mind is a mixture of different karmic characteristics, perceptions, attachments, thoughts, and so on. The body is made up of its different elements. None of this is so fixed. So the judgments we make about ourselves or others are often very limited, very superficial, very inaccurate, based on just, they only tell part of the story. So you have to investigate that, question your own judgments. Don't just believe them every time, don't accept them and just believe that they're true. Ask yourself sometimes, is that really true? So monks do some funny practices sometimes. Like one monk, I often quote, he was very judgmental when he was new to the meditation, and he saw this was a problem in his meditation. He was always looking at other monks, criticizing them, finding fault with them, finding something wrong with them, being very judgmental. And he said, this is all wrong. This is making my mind not peaceful. It's not fair on those other monks, but it's also not good for me. So what he actually did was, the very monks he didn't like and was judgmental and critical of, he spent as much time as he could with those monks. He said, I'm doing this to teach myself, to see the suffering of all these comments and judgments I make about these other monks in a very negative way, to actually get to know them better, to make friends with them. What he found was really almost anybody in the world, if you make the effort, you can get to know them, become friendly with them, and as you become more familiar with those people, those judgments completely change. People you've disliked before, you realize, oh, they have so many good things about them, things I can live with and appreciate. You have to do the same with yourself sometimes. Maybe you're always focusing on your own faults and your mistakes and your failures, and some of that may be true, but it's not the whole story, is it? Like, nobody is born in the world who is a total failure, because they wouldn't have been born a human being if they were a total failure. We're born as human beings because we made a lot of good karma, but we're not perfect yet. So yes, we make mistakes and we can do some horrible, stupid things, of course, but we're a mixture. So if your judgmental mind is always focusing on what's wrong, well, sometimes you have to bring it back into the middle and say, well, there's also other things that are right and good about myself or others. Or maybe you're the other way around and you're one who always judges yourself or others in a positive light. And I'm so good. You only notice the good things you do and all the bits you like about yourself or other people. You're very positive. You only see the good in others, which generally is a good thing, but it can be a little bit dangerous as well, because if you only see the good about others and you miss all the bad stuff, well, that's a bit risky. So what we're actually aiming to do is get the mind to the place where it's mindful, clearly comprehending and aware. And mindfulness is non-judgmental. So mindfulness just knows whether we're looking at ourselves or others or this situation or that situation. Mindfulness just knows the way things are. And so if somebody does something good, it knows that, but it doesn't get lost in it and make some big judgment on it. It just knows, oh, they did that and that was good. I did that, that was good. Or if somebody does something wrong, okay, they did that, that was wrong. It wasn't a good thing. You know it, but you don't create suffering or attachment out of it. You just know it. Or if I make a mistake or if I did something wrong, a failure, you know that, but you just know it with mindfulness without creating further stress and suffering out of that knowledge. It's just knowing and then letting go. The more you practice that, the kind of obsessive judgmental mind, the harmful judgmental mind will start to subside more and more, and your mind will stay more balanced in the middle, and it will still recognize the good, the bad, the faults, the strengths. It can still recognize all these qualities, but it's not attaching and judging them anymore. It's just knowing the way things are. And there's freedom in that, there's peace in that. And you'll find that you can see the good in people that before you didn't see the good in, or the good in yourself, whereas before you didn't see the good in yourself. Or maybe you notice faults in people that before you thought were perfect, but it doesn't lead to stress or suffering. You just know, oh, that's the way it is. So mindfulness and that reflective ability to just contemplate and see things the way they are, this is where you can get out of the habit of always being judgmental.
Paul, thank you so much. Just one final question that's actually written on the chat. I think you can answer this in a very crisp and short manner. And the question is, if time permits, Peter, could you please give a chance to this question? The question is it necessary to keep a teacher to understand Dhamma? Can that teacher be from a distance, like this virtual Dhamma session? Or is it a must to have a teacher physically nearby? Therefore, you can answer this in a short sentence.
You do the best you can. If you can meet your teacher sometimes or even go and stay with your teacher sometimes, that's best because you get more from the experience. But if it's not possible, well, Zoom is better than nothing. Books are good, but books can be a little bit dry, so we need some live interaction as well. Sometimes you need to see the example of the teacher, hear the words, be aware of what they do, what they don't do. You get more from actually being in the presence of the teacher, but you don't need to live with them 24 hours a day. Just when you have the chance, you visit them or you make the effort to go and see them if you have the chance. That's best of all.
Thank you, Lord Paul. That's all for today, Lord Paul.
Okay, well, thank you for listening.